Oh Christ!
You might want to cut that one for the call there.
I know. I was going to say something about football related, but I'm not going to say that because you definitely have to cut that as well.
What's that?
Man.
Burnsy's been inappropriate.
I just figured it's better if you just start recording it as soon as we're all on it. Like,
There's already been a paedophile mentioned.
Just missing stuff out all the time.
Who picked the movies this time?
Me
I picked
and
Cinderella Man.
You picked Cinderella Man.
Why do you keep saying man after Cinderella?
And me picked Rocky, which was really helpful.
Aye, Cinderella Man.
Am I missing something here?
You're at it.
Sorry I don't speak moron as well as you, but let me try.
What the hell is supposed to do, you moron?
It's a moron. That's not against the law.
Gun! You fucking moron!
Stuff like Batman.
Because he is Batman, you moron.
What are you, a fucking moron?
You moron. Drop dead. Moron.
Whoa!
Up here, you morons.
Stepping morons like yourself.
Me down, you moron! Hey, moron!
I don't know who's.
It was a genuine question.
What?
Why do you keep saying man after Cinderella?
What do you want me to say?
Cinderella full stop.
Aye.
Well, Bunsy, you picked the movie for this week, so I think you should do the introduction and take the lead for this week, please.
Damn, I've got to do this bit. It's nice of Dubs to be listening in. He's just walked away.
Oh,
Don't know you. No, so I don't know why I really picked this, to be honest.
Let's start off with welcoming everybody in, though.
Aye.
Properly.
Disaster.
Hello and welcome everyone in, and all of our many new listeners to Morons Review Movies. I've been forced into hosting this week because Kel can't be bothered, and this week I don't know why I chose this film, to be honest. Called Cinderella Man. So I think when I was looking through movies, I hadn't picked any sort of sports related ones in a while. So I think that's why I think maybe I've picked romance ones and horrors and stuff like that before. So and there's usually quite obviously a lot of. When I was looking through, I don't know if maybe I'm just missing stuff, but there seemed to be a lack of highly rated sports films. So yeah, that's why I picked it, and it's basically just about a former boxer who falls in hard times and has a comeback, really. Do you want me to carry on my thoughts, ex-host?
Ex-host, is that my title now? Yeah. For those that don't know which movie we are talking about and they maybe get confused about Cinderella and Cinderella Man, I'll give an introduction to this one. The story of James J. Braddock, a supposedly washed-up boxer who came back to challenge for the heavyweight championship of the world. We all watched the same movie, right?
Hope so.
Yes.
I've got a feeling Sean hasn't it?
Oh, of course I watched that.
I was leaving you open there, Sean, to come in and give us a bit of drama.
No, well, I tried to do a wee joke at the start, but Daniel seemed straight
flat.
through it, so I just left it straight away. So I'll just leave that one.
Oh, shame. You've been practicing that one as well.
Right, I'll just carry on then. So yeah, I watched this after the one we're doing next week of Rocky, so I've sort of have got some comparisons between the two. But I've lost where my notes were for Cinderella Man. Oh, they're there. So I'm going to start off with the bad points that I thought about it. I've got quite a lot of good points. I don't know if everyone else is going to feel the same as me or whether it's going to get obliterated or not. So I thought there was too much time spent on in-ring action. So like obviously Hud's original fight. When he wins, I don't know what years. I know it's based in the roughly 1930s, but the very first fight when the film opens, and then you always have like the fights that lead up to the main heavyweight match for the title, and I just thought too much time was spent on the in-ring stuff between all those fights, and also I thought that some of the boxing action was quite ridiculous. Like there was a lot of just like big haymakers getting thrown, and it just seemed far too over the top. If it's going to be in the ring, I want it to either be believable or that you don't see too much of it, so it's more about the backstory.
I agree with that, Bunsy. I didn't really want to mention the other movie because I feel like obviously we've happened to watch those two sort of back. But even if you like, so I've mentioned to you guys a few times about Raging Bull. That's a boxing movie that has got a lot of action in it, like loads and loads, maybe more than Cinderella Man. But the action is a lot better than what was in this. I just felt like a lot of it was really repetitive, and I don't know, it just didn't feel like suspenseful or exciting or anything like that. I really thought the action was overkill. I thought, like you were saying about the initial fight when he's obviously working his way up the first time, I thought that one was all right. But then obviously he goes kind of through the hard times and all that, and then as he's kind of working his way to the heavyweight title shot, the fighting just seemed to be really samey. That's the term.
Yeah.
I felt the exact same thing about this. I actually felt like almost two halves of a film. You got like a wee bit at the start, then all the hard time stuff, and then suddenly it was just like back-to-back boxing. Or it felt like at least an hour, man.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was researching the trivia,
bad guy, Max or whoever he was.
Yeah.
The main guy that he fights at the end. I thought his punches looked fucking awful.
Yeah.
About like a drunk guy outside the mannequin. Like it didn't look like boxing in the slightest.
I think that's what I was saying about the fightings with the haymakers and that. It was when he was watching him fighting somebody else before they fight together, and you're just seeing him just flinging these punches. It's like if you were in a boxing ring if you even watched like an undercard of some nonsense fight, like not even a heavyweight, it was a heavyweight fight, but it was on like an undercard of some BT show, and like York Hall or something, which they seem to just want to put every fight in. I don't know why I'm talking about that, but anyway, they're a lot better standard than this. Make it believable if you're going to, or just don't show enough of boxing to actually make you care about it.
I think we've had a few, not just boxing films as well. We've had obviously Warrior and stuff like that, and we spoke about like the kind of choreography of how the fights are done on the film, and very rarely does it come across very well. I've never seen Raging Bull, so I can't comment on that. But I mean, there's a handful of boxing films out there that are pretty much the same as this, like big, just unrealistic haymakers and stuff. What I did kind of like about this one though is that, in its defence, there was a wee bit of realism in terms of like there was a lot of clinching and stuff like that. So they've tried to not just make it all just like punch, like just back and forth like a street fight. But just on how you said that there seemed to be like a lot of action, I didn't really kind of feel that. I went back and I had a look at his actual fight history. So like the first fight that we've seen on the film, I believe, was the late 20s, like 28 or 29. And then he's actually, since then, he's had at least like 20 or 25 fights. Even during his comeback, he had a lot more than what we've seen. What they've shown is obviously the one against the unbeaten, like the really ugly guy. I can't remember his name, but it was the first one for his comeback when he was getting paid like $240.
He was only sort of put in that fight to kind of build the other guy up, and then he ends up
winning it. So like they've only showed, I think, like the kind of key ones they missed, and obviously because you would just be sitting through just endless fight scenes. So I never really felt the way that a couple of years have already said about how there seemed to be a lot of action. I thought it was perfectly balanced. That's what I felt anyway watching the film, between action in the ring and then obviously his personal life and his struggles through the depression and stuff like that.
I was just going to say, Sean, about your point about the boxing, and obviously I mentioned Raging Bull as well. Like, because Raging Bull's Martin Scorsese, it's obviously the boxing's really violent, and I feel like this, it was just really, like, I don't know, it was too easy. You know what I mean? There wasn't really a lot of. There's one bit actually, and I think it's in the final fight. Is it Max Baer, the guy's called?
Yeah.
He comes out for the 12th round, and that Max Baer guy's like fucking beaten to a pulp, and Russell Crowe's not got a mark on him. Like I picked that moment out in particular. Like obviously they've already went the 12 rounds, and it's got another 3 rounds to go or whatever, and Russell Crowe didn't have a fucking blemish on him. I thought, it's just no realistic, eh? I was also going to say, sorry Hunter, I kind of want to come in, but with Max Baer as well, they do all this stuff about him, like Russell Crowe's character maybe dying in the ring and stuff like that, but I didn't really feel that Max Baer character, the actor that played him, he wasn't like threatening or anything like that either. He's just like a big... The guy that Russell Crowe knocks out, actually, for his comeback fight was a lot more menacing looking. I didn't feel that Max Baer guy looked like, I don't know, he just... it was weird, and obviously they had like women hanging off him as well and stuff like that. I was like, it just didn't land for me at all.
I thought he came across quite gimmicky.
I've just got to come in just on what you're saying, Dubs. There's one point I did have for the trivia. Was that Max Baer from actually was a decent guy in real life. So what a bit of trivia I've got here is the first guy, well, the only guy he actually killed in the ring. Like that apparently like haunted him all his days. Like all his future purse money he donated to that guy's family. Like, yeah. So I said that again, it's just a risk, a hazard of the sport. I guess that there's a chance you go in there, you're going to literally get your lights knocked out, and that's what we said. He was a decent enough guy that he felt so guilty for it and made sure that his opponent's family were still looked after well after that fight.
What I was going to say as well, right? Obviously, I never ever look after I've watched the film. I never usually look at like what is like how it was made or anything like that, because I didn't like that to influence my review. And obviously this is based on a real person, but it never actually said that at any point in the movie, did it? Like usually it'll say this is based on true events or whatever.
Yeah, no, it didn't, because it was only after I watched it I googled it and I realised it was based on true events. I don't know if you went in with I hadn't heard any of the boxers. I don't know if I'm the only one that's here like that, but no, it definitely didn't mention it in the film.
No, I just thought
it wasn't to the end. Like if you just watched this without reading anything about it, you would kind of maybe gather from the end, like it kind of tells you what happens after the fight and like how they kind of live their life after it.
I just took that as
I only knew it was just because I read the wee kind of snippet on the internet before. I literally just knew that it was based on a true story for that. And
I just took that, Sean, it's like they were doing just a wee bit at the end. More like, because sometimes obviously do that in films when it is just based, it's not based in real life too. So I know what you mean in terms it is sort of hinted at, but I didn't. See, son, that you had mentioned, Dubs, is it was only after when, well, no after, it was during the film when obviously they're talking about 15 rounds. I don't know if this is in your trivia as well, Hunter, but...
No, I did note it as well with the 15 rounds, because I'm sure the other film that we're reviewing next week, that was also 15 rounds. I wasn't aware of when... So I take it was 15 2-minute rounds back then instead of 12 threes.
I'm not sure
it was 15 threes.
I think it was, because the bit I read briefly was something like, I can't remember the guy's name or anything like that, but it was something to do with a guy had died after, and say like the 15th round, and it turned out when they did like the after he'd passed and whatever, they realised that his brain had been hurt given a lot more damage after the 12th round. So after that, they said, right, instead of having 15 rounds, we're cutting it back to 12. Because I was thinking, like, are they just completely fucked up here and it should have been 12 rounds? But obviously it was 15 rounds at that time. And I can't remember when it changed, but it changed because somebody died, I think.
That was 15 and 3.
I never realised that was actually based on something that had happened, that they then changed it to 12. I knew that it was 15 rounds back in the day, because I used to play Knockout Kings. I don't know if any of you played that.
Yeah.
And you could do like, it was like you could go like all the fuck boxers and that, and it was like some of the fights were 15 rounds.
Right. No, I had no idea.
I think the last 15-minute round heavyweight title fight was Mike Tyson in 1987 against Tyrell Biggs.
A 15-minute round, fuck.
Just one round.
just one
solid round.
15 rounds either, like.
I was searching there because I think it's called the championship distance, and it was saying here that the longest one on record was a bare knuckle boxing match that lasted for 3.5 hours.
That's why I was going to come in. I was just going to say that there used to be no timeline that would just keep going until somebody just fucking collapsed, essentially.
That's mental. I was going to say as well, I kind of keep mentioning Raging Bull, but The guy that's based on, Jake LaMotta. I think he fought. I think it's Sugar Ray Robinson. That might need to be checked, but he fought him like 5 times in his career. Like, you know how nowadays, like, obviously they'll maybe have like a second fight between boxers, or maybe, if like, very rarely they'll have a third gen. Like, back in the days, like, as well, the boxers seem to have like hundreds of fights, and they also like seem to fight each other like weeks apart and stuff like that. It's all totally changed now. Like, the undisputed champion in the world or whatever, sometimes they'll not have like maybe more than 2 fights a year and shit like that. I think there was a guy, Andre Ward. I'm sure he was undisputed champion, never fought for years.
Right.
This was in like the last few years.
Aye, it's changed so much, man.
Aye.
Politics, the promotions. I mean, back then it was just like there was one belt and that was it. So simple.
I'm looking at the Jake LaMotta one there, Dubs. He won the title in June 1949, and he fought in the December, February, March, May, July, September, February.
There you go. It's fucking mental. Like,
it's partly because how much money's in boxing now too, though, because you don't need to fight that often. Whereas then you obviously saw throughout the film, then he's basically having to, when he's working, it's like the boxing is like top up his earnings, making sure he can look after his family. It's like if you're a boxer and I know obviously comes from, he has this sort of hard times and he does build himself back up to the heavyweight title fight, but if you got close to that, you wouldn't be thinking, right, I need this fight to be able to look after my family. You'd have got to a reasonable level and been okay. Obviously, the amount of money it's in boxing nowadays, whereas back then, obviously, it was nothing like it, and you had to fight that often too.
I think this film could have been doing with being about an hour less in length.
I agree with that too.
Aye.
Oh man,
written in my notes as well.
Aye, like, I'm not normally one of these folk, but I just don't think this had like enough to justify anywhere near the amount of length that it was given, because I got the picture that he was poor after the first 20 minutes of seeing him being poor. Do you know what I mean? Like, I really didn't need to see another 45 minutes of him being slightly more poor every single scene. I mean, like, oh, no, the lecky's out. Oh, no, we've no food. Oh, no, the kids have got to go away. No, I've got to go and beg with my hat. No, I've got to go and sign on the dole. Like, we get it. You're like, the guy's fucking poor now. I don't know. It just was a bit overkill for me.
See, I'm the opposite to you, Daniel, with that. It's like the bits that I thought it could have been cut down, is what I've said before, but there was too much boxing, like, in the ring stuff and that, whereas I actually thought it felt as if the film, to me, did a good way of, like, you were finding out a lot more about the person, and back then what the home life and struggles could be for, like, a family and stuff, which obviously, because it's back then, you don't really know then, you don't know the ins and outs of it and stuff like that. So I thought that was actually, that was the more positive parts that I thought about the film was, and I thought as well that Renée Zellweger was good in terms of how her reactions. You could tell she was sort of emotionally torn in terms of how, she does explain it later on in terms of how she's like thinking, well, if you don't fight with no money, but if you do fight, you could get hurt, and obviously get seriously hurt, as breaks his hand and things like that. And when you mentioned, I come into it, was it mentioned about the guy in the main event, is that I thought as well they did like a really good way of portraying him as really unlikable. I know what you mean in terms he maybe didn't give the impression of like being that dangerous in the ring. I think it was Dubs that said that, but I thought as the lines that they gave him and whatever, he did come across as a total arsehole, which obviously that's what they're wanting to do. But it does seem a bit weird why they've portrayed him that way when it's based on a real story, and he's obviously actually a decent guy, and they've obviously just made him out to the complete opposite for the sake of the film, whereas usually don't get it as wildly extreme as that, as I would say.
I think with that is the reason that they've portrayed him the way they have is probably just to suit their film.
It's just artistic,
I don't think,
basically.
Aye, it's Hollywood and the story up. That's it.
Aye, that's basically it. Just on the kind of, I want to touch on the length. Like, obviously, I've kind of got like the attention span of a goldfish normally when it comes to kind of long films like this. But I actually, this flew in when I watched it. For me, I felt there was enough in-ring action and out-ring personal life stuff. I thought it flowed really well. Like, I did really, really enjoy it. So I'm the complete opposite for Daniel and maybe Bunzy, but just on the I fucking forgot his name, but the final boxer that he fought. I don't know if you've kind of noticed as well, but it's the same like throughout the whole film in the fight scenes as well. They're all just like similar shapes. Like whereas like now, if you watch a boxing fight, you might have somebody who is like just like muscles upon muscles, like a Joshua type. Whereas like, I thought that it actually kind of looked really good in the way they done it, because back then they all just looked like that. Like it wasn't like the chiseled physiques and stuff like that. It was more like they're obviously very fit, but it wasn't as much about like muscles and power and strength and all of that kind of stuff. Like when I was watching the fight scenes, it felt like I was watching something from like the 30s. But you can actually go back and watch that full fight on YouTube, and it's in colour in that. And you can tell they've obviously done it, because it does follow a kind of similar pattern, especially the first round. Obviously, I never watched the whole thing, but I watched like the first 5 minutes or whatever. Because I think the video on YouTube is only like 35 minutes long, but I can't be bothered watching all of that, obviously. But like I watched the first 5 minutes, and it was kind of similar in terms of like the movement and things like that. Like it's a totally different sport to where it is now, just because obviously people have got bigger, stronger, faster, and all that. Like humans have evolved. But no, I thought that in terms of the length and the way that the film kind of flowed, for me, I thought it was brilliant and perfect, considering it was a 2.5 hour long film, where normally I would be like zoning in and out most of the time.
You're normally very much against that over 90-minute mark, Sean.
I was just going to say though there, like about the boxing, and obviously we just mentioned the artistic license. Like if they've made the fight like really true to actually what happened, yet they're portraying this guy, this Max Baer, as like a piece of shit, when in reality wasn't it? It's like I don't understand why they did that. Like they would have been better making the fight at the end a lot more exciting and a lot more like brutal and edgy if it was meant to be this risk that Russell Crowe's character was taking. Like I don't understand why. Like that's admirable if they managed to make it like realistic, but it just didn't fucking have the effect. And usually it wouldn't. It bothers me sometimes with the length of the movie, but it doesn't bother me if it's like worth it for the suspense or anything like that. But I just didn't feel like just for such a brutal sport, like it just didn't grip me enough. Like any of the action, I just felt like I just always knew that Russell Crowe was going to come out on top. At no point did I think, he's in bother here. Like it just came up. And some of the guys he's fighting are like double the size of him and stuff. Like
I think as well, when you're saying about how you didn't think he was in trouble, because they focused all on like he's killed people in the ring, you could get killed. You're like, well, I know obviously going to have him fucking dead in the ring. That's not going to be the end of the film. Whereas if they didn't focus on that as much, you might have felt there was more chance of him not succeeding. Obviously, because I didn't know the actual story and didn't realise it was a true story and all that too. And then coming back to the thing that I was saying earlier, I don't know if it was you, Sean, that said, but I was saying how they obviously portrayed the main event guy as like this arsehole. Is it was more the fact I would have thought that to get obviously sign off for a film, you would have to like go to each character, because it's based on a true story, to say, are you okay with this? You couldn't just put something out there that is not true. Do you know what I mean?
It'll be long. It'll be long.
He died in the 50s.
Oh, aye, true. So, well, his family though, they could be unhappy. They could be
No,
unhappy.
I would imagine they would have spoke to his family and that.
You know what I mean? So that's what I mean in terms of why you wouldn't just tell the true story, because it's based on a true story, but we've just realised that
I think
the keyword there is based, because as we know, like with these types of films, there's a point I was going to make, that making it blow for blow, like hit for hit, as it happened back then.
Oh yeah,
maybe it doesn't make for a good enough story to sell to Hollywood. So I think even kind of, as we're touching back on Max Baer again, back to the guy that actually died in the ring, he slipped beside him for 30 minutes after he punched him with an ambulance coming. He's not a bad guy, but they've made him out to be some sort of ultimate Hollywood villain. It was kind of like, remember we watched Borg McEnroe a while back, and they kind of portrayed that out as like needle and that, when in reality the needle maybe wasn't anywhere near as bad as what it is. That's all it is. We need Russell Crowe's the hero. We need to set somebody up to fight him at the end. That's all that's done for.
Mm-hmm.
And the second guy that apparently died in the ring died in a fight that Max Baer didn't kill him. Max Baer fought him. He then got meningitis, then fought somebody else and died in the ring. But for somehow they've portrayed it in this film, it was Max Baer that actually killed him.
I think there was one hunter who said that how they'd. I think he killed one in the ring, but then they said in the when they were in the room and they were showing the clips, I think they said something like the other one, he didn't kill him in the ring, but he went into another fight, and then another fight he basically died.
I'm sure that's what he said, Burnsy.
It was like he died in the ring, but when they did when they looked at it after it, they said, "Oh, it was because of the previous fight you had. It was nothing to do with
dislodged his brain or something like that." Was it?
Yeah.
But in reality, it was the boy had meningitis.
But he dislodged his brain, but he was still able to fight again. What? He nearly won.
I think just on the portrayal, is it Max Bear? Bear. Obviously, as Hunter said, because I did also read that. It was on Wikipedia that I read it about the person that he killed in the ring, and how his wife, the guy who died, his wife instantly forgave him because apparently she said to him it could have been you kind of thing, basically saying the two of you get in there, she knows the risk kind of thing. You can still portray him as a killer and a serious threat to him, even if he is a nice guy, but he was making comments about his wife and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that was the portrayal of him being a wanker, basically.
Mm-hmm.
It probably would have had more of an effect if he was a silent type, and he was just he's fought two people in the ring who both died. This guy's a killer kind of thing. You don't need him slagging Russell Crowe's wife and all that. At the black tie event they were at, and then in the ring he makes a couple of comments as well. They could have. I think it would have been better if they went down that route of just him just basically being a mute and just obviously focus on the fact that he's killed two people in the ring, and there is a danger there in terms of him just being a mouthy wee kind of prick.
Mouthy prick. What I
was just going to kind of bring it back in to kind of mirror the performances. I feel like we've segued more into boxing, Morons reviewing boxing and Morons reviewing movies a bit here. But I did, for regards to the film, the acting performances I thought were alright. Russell Crowe was decent. I thought Paul Giamatti was very good, and also Paddy Considine as well. Much loved that actor.
That blew me away that he was in this. I thought it was really good. I thought he was probably the best. But it just really, I thought that was, I don't know, has he been in a lot of Hollywood films, Paddy Considine?
I think Stephen Graham probably gets all the roles that he goes up for in Hollywood. So
yeah, it just seemed. I mean, he was good. I didn't. I know you guys were saying about Giamatti. I didn't actually like him in this. I do usually like him. What is it? Is it Man on the Moon? He's in with Jim Carrey. Is that right? No.
Yeah.
I really like him in that, but in this, I just felt like. I mean, this is partly the writing as well. I felt like he was repeating himself a lot. And I just really felt like, I don't know, I just didn't. It was meant to be like a likable character, and I just didn't take him at all.
On that, there was that scene, sorry Daniel, where Russell Crowe's coming and begging, and he's almost pleading poverty, but in the minute he's making our money again, he's his best pal, he's fucking in his corner, coached him, and that just if you're that much of the upstanding guy that you're pretending to be, should you be the first one to help him when he's coming begging?
It was all a front, wasn't it, as well? When his wife turned up at his flat, it was completely empty.
So he had nothing either.
And also he was the one that actually gave him the money to be training. If it's the same guy, so I don't know. I'm assuming that's actually.
He was obviously wanting Russell Crowe to go back to it so that he could make both of them money. Which I mean, that's fine. That's what these cunts do. But it was just in general his performance. To be honest, it's not just him. I didn't think many of the performances were that great. We watched Renée Zellweger in Chicago, not that long ago, and I thought she was obviously I didn't really rate the movie that much, but I thought she was outstanding. But in this again, it was just it was a fucking hard watch.
A lot of it was about Russell Crowe though as well. There wasn't. I know they had scenes together, but it was rare that she actually had. She didn't have much input, I wouldn't say, to that show. I don't know how long she was on screen.
Paddy Considine had even less, and I thought he was superb. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the wee boy, one of his sons at one point, is it when he steals something for the butcher or something? That's his only scene. And just the way the wee boy bursts into tears and stuff like that. I thought that was better than most of the acting done by the guys that are getting paid millions and millions of dollars.
I felt like this was going hunting for the Oscars. but didn't ever land.
Did it win anything? I've no actually got a clue.
3 nominations, 0 wins.
I mean, it's a type of film that every actor in it was trying to win an Oscar. They were really trying to overact, like, and I feel like because it's the guy, what's his name? Is it Ron Howard, the director?
Yes.
So he wins a lot of Oscars and all that. Like, I felt like they expected this to be some amazing, triumphant Oscar-winning movie, and they're all trying their best to act, but like, it just falls pretty flat for me, man. This film, I think.
What else is that Ron Howard directed then?
He did like Apollo 13. He did hundreds of stuff. He's like one of the most successful directors ever.
Starting out on Happy Days.
Started out in Happy Days. He's the ginger guy for Happy Days.
Oh, really?
Kyle, look us up Ron Howard's filmography if he wants to get on it. But I just felt like it was really disappointing. See, by the end, I just felt a bit like, my God, is this not done yet? Like, I'm not saying it's not one of the worst films we've seen. It's definitely not one of the worst, but
it's nowhere near one of the best either.
No, it was a bit of a real slog for me. I kind of struggled with this one a wee bit, if I'm honest, because
I went and spoke to Leslie after I watched it, and I was like, schmaltzy is the word that I used, and she just burst out laughing. Schmaltzy. That's how I felt after it. It was just, I need more edge, and when it's a boxing movie, like it should have plenty of edge.
Yeah.
Just fucking never had anywhere near that.
Well, some of the movies for Ron Howard I've got up here is one that we've done before, I think, Rush.
Yeah.
Angels and Demons, A Da Vinci Code, A Beautiful Mind, Apollo 13, Willow, great movie. And that's pretty much it.
So
I've not heard the other ones. Pavarotti. I've never watched Pavarotti.
What's that about?
No.
Pasta, is it no?
You'll make me hungry.
I don't know, man. I think this is like you, Bunsey. Sorry, Dubs. I just think it was a bit like bland. It was like flavourless yogurt or beige paint. You know what I mean? Like
usually that's right up my street, but when it comes to a 2.5 hour film, it's I need a bit of edge, Ken. I need a bit of
spice.
A bit of spice.
I said a few weeks ago that I was a salt and shake man without the salt, and I thoroughly enjoyed this. So
that's right
up my street.
That's funny. That's funny how that's all kicked back in.
It's like a bottle of red milk. Is that not just like white water basically?
I wouldn't go that far with the milk, but aye, similar.
I mean, I've not really said much about this one, but I'm struggling to remember if I even liked parts of it or no, because I feel like it was just on. Like
it's nothing. That's exactly what the film was, though. You don't know what happened after it.
Because I was like, Bonzi said the difference between the actual his life and the actual fighting, I just kind of merged into one for me, like, because it was the same scenes in the room, like was mentioned earlier, like, oh, you're poor again, you're a wee bit less poor, you've got a wee bit of money, you're a wee bit poor again. I quite liked the bit where he went and gave the money back that he'd been claiming, but they seemed to make for about 30 seconds, they made a big thing about the fact that he went claiming for support. And then that was it. It was just over. It was like they hadn't built that into his character that he was against that. Do you know what I mean? So if they're in that Great Depression and they're really struggling, it was never mentioned once about, oh, but we could sign on and get a wee bit of cash.
He kept fighting on with his broken hand and stuff like that. To be honest, like, I was going to say, like, when he was kind of struggling and the stuff about them being poor and all that, I know, Daniel, you were saying it kind of dragged, but I didn't actually mind that bit. But because, like, I would say, like, the last hour just completely fucking dragged, it just takes away from the rest of it, I think, when that happens,
I'm just going to add on as well. Did we ever get a reason, or if I missed this? Yeah, the Wayne that was on fucking death's door at one point, and the next scene they were all fucking up, jumping about together. The three of them, like, there was the actual explanation as to what the Wayne had, how the Wayne got cured, just by turning the lecky back on. Was that all it needed?
No, I think that Renée Zellweger's character sent them off to our sisters and our mums and stuff like that.
And then they were magically better after that.
Well,
it's like the scene in...
she was dying of cough.
Whooping cough.
Just cough.
And you don't see them again until they come home, and obviously they've got a bit of money. The other thing I was going to say as well is that one of the bits that I didn't really get why they included in the film, you know how he meets this guy when he's working with him, and then he ends up dying because he's in like a protest against, and he gets.
I was going to mention that as well. I don't know if anybody can shed any light on that.
I don't understand why that was in the film. Like, I got a bit lost because it never got to say. I could understand it if it was like his best pal or something.
Was it something to do with like the union or
Yeah, the union.
Was it more like
communism
against
shit?
the government and all that? With it, like how the
Because it's in the midst
how
of the Great
things were.
Depression that this
Aye.
film's set.
I just didn't get why it was included though, because you didn't feel there wasn't like a great friendship between the two. So obviously he dies, but you didn't really feel anything because you're like, well, we don't know enough about the character. And
Well, the first scene was like when he had his broken hand and he finally gets picked to work, and then he's working
It's
with
him.
him. Aye, and he basically, and then the boss came over and basically mentioned the black cast on his hand, and then he said it's no slowing us down. So he basically kept him in a job. So that's, I suppose, where like he's obviously. I know it's a very, very small gesture and stuff like that, and it's a very small part of the film, but I suppose it's just kind of goes there. Then I'm sure they went out for a beer straight after it as well, straight after that shift. So they've obviously bonded, and again, you don't see it all because we'd be sitting there for hours if we were going through every single point in his life and every relationship that he had in his life and stuff like that. So it's just wee things I think that have been planted in there to suggest that they have got quite a strong friendship.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is a waste, though. I think this is more to my point, right? You're meant to understand that during the Great Depression, there was turmoil between unions, which has caused this guy to go into a protest, which has caused police to trample. Like, who gives a fuck? Honestly, who gives two shits? Like, it's a boxing film, a poor guy. Like,
Aye.
It's just too many different things.
Like, that's what I was just going to say there, though. Like, so we're in like our mid-30s, right? Imagine like somebody maybe 5 years younger than us or 10 years younger than us watches that. Like they're going to know even less about that than what we would, and we're like sitting there like clueless, like what the fuck was that all about? I was guessing it was something to do with the unions or something like that, and like it doesn't even really say what the Great Depression is either. Like, we know everybody's poor, but we didn't really know what was it, a recession basically, or again, it's just not really explained.
They'll get started off. What's that thing? Is it like, was it Black or whatever it was? There was that day in the 20s where the stock market like crashed. And then it took them like years to recover for it. Kind of like fucking the credit crunch back. The closest thing we've probably seen to it.
Now you mentioned it, Hunter, I do mention how both of them used to deal in stocks and shares when him and his pal are sitting having the beer, but I didn't click onto that as well. So obviously now that you're saying that, again, that's just it's probably like Dub says, it's probably just expected that either you're a bit older watching the film, so you understand it, or that you're going to either do some reading before it, which nobody's really going to do, or you're going to read about it after it to find more about it. But and there is films that I would watch and then read about after it and try and if there's things that I've missed or whatever. But some films, obviously, you just sort of watch and then you're just done with.
But again, it's kind of on that. It's the way that they portray it in this film. Like, you had that fight, and then he was penniless. Like, but then also if you go back and read in his record, he was fighting hundreds of fights in between. Basically, the two fights that you see in the film, like the second one, like, so he wasn't penniless. He might have been poor, but they're making it look as if he was fucking.
He was living in the fucking house for Willy Wonka, like just everybody in the same bed, like.
Maybe the wee lassie got the same effect that fucking Grandpa Joe got when the gold ticket came out. Instantly better. I'm just looking at some of the goofs that are related to this movie on IMDb, and we've touched a bit on it being based on a true story, but no, actually they're just changing things for artistic viewing. After the opening fight in the late 20s, James goes home to his wife May and their 3 kids, but they never actually got married until the 30s. But yeah, just shoehorn her in there. Like, they're not want to tell us all about a love story then, I suppose, are they? Just hover there for the start. And it also said here that the New York Times called the Bear Braddock fight one of the worst heavyweight championship contests in the long history of the ring.
Wow.
So let's make a film about it. But I'm very much in the camp of it was just a bit meh. Like, I've never seen it, and it's never really shouted out as one that I wanted to see. So this probably just ties in with the fact that it was just a bit samey, boring, a bit plain, a bit ready salted for Sean. There was nothing that jumped out. Even like the acting wasn't particularly great. I felt like Russell Crowe was just the same in every single scene. Like he had the same expression, the same tone.
I'm not a big lover of him, to be honest. Like,
see, at this one, he didn't seem overly happy when things were going well, or overly sad when things were going badly. Like, he just was fucking, I don't know, nonplussed most of the time. He just didn't seem all that fussed. I know sometimes what he was saying made it seem like he should be upset, but he just didn't look upset, if you know what I mean. He was just
when he came back and found his kids were gone and there was barely a reaction at him.
Aye, like that's a perfect example. Like what he's saying is you should never have sent them away, but he's just saying it in such a fucking who gives a fuck way.
Dane, monotone.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest fan of him. I've still never watched Gladiator from start to finish. I want to say I've started it a couple of times and just never got to the end of it.
I think I have watched it, but I don't remember being like blown away by it at all.
Not the same with it, John Anderson in it anyway.
What about American Gangster? Any seen that?
We watched it for this.
No. Did you rate that one quite highly? No.
Nah.
I don't remember.
I like that.
There's a shock.
No. Sean Russell Crowe feeling the corner.
Yeah, I think he's actually quite good in that, in Russell Crowe, because he is actually like he's down on his luck in this movie as well, but he never really comes out of that in that movie. I do quite like him in that, to be fair, but it's not that good a movie really.
Aye, no, it's bang average, just like this film that we've just watched.
Right.
Well, we got some trivia. Sorry, Burns, I'm stealing the limelight here.
I was just about to go there as well. But,
right, sorry.
Somebody else want to end Tad first before I go to Hunter for some trivia?
Negative.
On you go, Hunter.
Right, so we touched on it earlier with the 3 Oscar nominations. One of them was actually for Paul Giamatti in the supporting role.
The one thing actually, just on Dubsy's point, right, I think his acting's good, but the character's stupid. And what I don't get, right, is he's promoter, his manager, or his fucking boxing coach. Because
all three will do one.
What's that guy that's shown him the video that Max Baer took killing 2 folk? I'm sure he's the promoter, because it's him that revokes his license and all that, does he know?
Aye, I thought he was like the boxing board, whatever.
I didn't think he was in to do with that fighter. I thought he was on the side of the other.
Aye, he's like a middleman.
I didn't know if they were kind of trying to portray him and like some of the other guys in the suits and that they were kind of like connected or on the fringes of like organised crime and that. It wasn't really made implicit, but I just I felt like that was kind of what they were getting at.
Just like everything else in this film, it's sort of hinted at, but they didn't give you anything about it really. And
it's also the fact that when he goes like begging and that they're all he goes to Madison Square Garden and all they folk are just sitting there. Is that what they do? Like every day they just all sit at Madison Square Garden. Like,
I know.
Just like what?
Just to jump in with who Paul Giamatti was up against for best performance as a supporting role, was William Hurt for A History of Violence, Sean's favourite actor Jake Gyllenhaal in Brokeback Mountain, Matt Dillon in Crash, and the eventual winner, which was George Clooney in Syriana. Then you heard that.
What a pile of shite.
All right.
And he still couldn't win.
So other actors that were considered for the lead role were Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Clive Owen, Billy Bob Thornton, and Mark Wahlberg.
They're all the same That's all the same person apart from Billy Bob Thornton.
Aye, that's all the same guy.
So after defeating Max Baer for the heavyweight championships, James Braddock fought only 2 more fights before retiring. He actually waited 2 years before defending his title, so he fucking sat on that after fighting like every 6 weeks.
Sounds like Tyson Fury.
That was after me saying that they used to fight like every month and that. He didn't bother his arms.
So I got this. So he fought that. He defended his title 1, and then he lost his next fight after that. So retired. He hung up his gloves at the age of 32. Are they trying to portray fucking Russell Crowe as some sort of fucking 30-year-old in this?
Must be.
And he must be in his mid-20s at the start.
Aye. So see at the first fight that we see, he was actually the real life person was 23 when he in the late 20s.
He was
so
married.
They kept calling him old man throughout the film as well. Like in the last fight, he was kind of calling him an old man. I was a bit confused as to like what age were we at that point.
Yeah.
That was a bit confusing, but That's what it is.
And the last one, I kind of touched on the stuff with Max Baer and what happened in the ring with him. So the final point I have here is to film the final fight. The seats were filled with 15,000 blow-up dummies with masks and hats. So it wasn't just folk hanging about Madison Square Garden all the time. It was some blow-up dolls in there.
Surely it'd be cheaper just to grab some folk off the street and let them come and sit in for 5 minutes.
You think so?
Yeah.
The fucking effort they've gone to for that as well.
My score's just sliding down with every one of these bits of trivia. Like,
I was just doing the quick maths on there to see it. The difference between a boxer back then and a boxer now. So we've mentioned that a few times. So Max Baer fought for 2 years less than what Tyson Fury has already fought. Tyson Fury has had 34 professional fights, and Max Baer had 81.
Aye.
see, I don't know. Maybe this might be a wee bit slightly like, I don't know, racist or something like that. But I'm sure like Filipino boxers and that, they do like 200 fights and that. Like that, they're just fucking mental. And like Mexico and stuff like that, I'm sure they're the same.
That's like they're always like up there with the Olympics and that, because it's all just amateurs.
Pacquiao, I bet you've looked at Manny Pacquiao. Pacquiao's had like a fucking silly amount of fights. He's probably still fighting as well.
I'm sure he is, because I think who was it one recently? Chris Eubank. It was somebody else called him out recently. Chris
Eubank Jr. did one the other week there, did you know?
No, I don't think it was him that called him out though. Maybe it was, but somebody called him out recently. I saw, so he must still be. He must have recently retired. He's still fighting.
Called him out.
WWE.
One of the easiest guys to get a hold of.
Cut a promo already.
Well, he's on 72 fights. The bit that I seen him for Pacquiao recently is that he wants to fight in the 2024 Olympics.
I think he needs to keep fighting because the Philippines economy relies on him fighting.
Yeah.
Like,
does it really?
like he donates like millions and millions and millions to the Philippines like every year, like massive amounts to the other.
Was he not like Prime Minister there not that long ago too?
He was senator. He also had a professional basketball career in the Philippines.
What? He's one
Where
of
does
the
he find the time?
there.
He's 5'5".
He's a giant.
You jealous?
In the Philippines, he's like the second tallest man there.
Well, we're on a slippery slope here, guys. Let's move this along.
Cut that.
Right. We'll go to our scoring now. I'll start off with Sean, please.
As I said, I really enjoyed this. I'd imagine this will be the highest score out of the lot. I'm going to give it a 4.5.
What?
Wow. I like how there was he wasn't sure if it was going to be the highest score.
Oh, it most definitely will be. Yep. That's what I graded it in my head when I finished it, and all the negativity flying about here is not going to change that.
I'm happy though, Sean, since it was my pick, so thank you.
Daniel,
you're next.
Are you?
No.
Did you say me next, Bonzo?
Yeah, you next, please.
A nice solid 2 for this.
Cool. I'll go next. So I came in with a higher score than this, but we've kind of abused it. So I'm going to give it a 3.
Absolute shite bag.
No, but I've realised as well, Sean, it's like when I come in and I talk about films, then even for my comments, if I gave it, I came in with like a 3.5 or something, my comments don't deserve a 3.5, so obviously I didn't enjoy it as much. So I'm going to downgrade it because obviously talking about it hasn't made it hit the same, so I'm going to downgrade mine to a 3.
It's very big of you to admit that, Craig, and just say it. Like,
Thanks. I forgot that I was to tell who was next. I was just going to sit there and wait for Kyle, so we'll go to Dubs next, please.
2.5 for me. And I've pretty much covered all my notes. So I had a higher score than that, but I've downgraded it. Pish.
Kyle, please.
I'm going to come slightly less than Daniel. I'll give it a 1.75. It was just there. Wasn't horrific, but it wasn't enjoyable. Like to be 2.5 and up, it has to be at least enjoyable, I think. So this just wasn't there for me.
And finally, Hunter.
2.75.
Cool. So that's bang on Hunter's score. So that's a 2.75 overall.
Nice.
So You'll need to tell us where that goes in the leaderboard, Kel, because I can't.
I know, but see, because you're hosting, I've totally forgot that. I need to come back to the shit ready.
I'll fill in the gaps. So
Yeah,
next,
go on. Fill in the time that everyone's laughing at 2.75. You said, yeah.
yeah. So
Go on,
next,
do a wee promo for us.
next week we've got another boxing film, which is Daniel's one. After him calling himself Mieros, I'll fill that part in for you. And it's Rocky that we're watching, which I haven't seen. I've seen wee bits of it, and Dubs hasn't seen either. I think everybody else has. So I think that'll score maybe a wee bit higher. Possibly.
Well, more than Sean, I don't think.
Well, I found out 2.75 must be one of our most popular scores because there's quite a lot of films that have got that exact score. So I'll just read them in alphabetical order, I think. We've got Back to the Future. Funny enough, a Sean favourite.
Feels like every single movie that we do always has the same score as Back to the Future or one of the Back to the Future films. Bet if you went back and listened to every podcast, and this is just coming in right next to Back to the Future.
Well, Back to the Future, Mad Max Fury Road, Memento, Midsummer, Smile, and The Shape of Water.
Well, I think I scored Smell really high. Didn't realise it was that low.
There we go. And then slightly below Ford versus Ferrari, if you remember that one.
Just mind that.
And Coach Carter.
Oh, aye, that was better than this, Coach Carter. Anyway, I think that's us all done, unless any's want to add anything before we finish off.
Nah.
No, thank you.
Cool. Right, well, I'm not going to do Kel's usual speech because I'll get tongue-tied, so I'm just going to thank everybody for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
Well done. Thank you.
You happy with yourself, Burnsy?
Very.
Look at the smile
so-
on his face.
Yeah, I'm so happy.
That smile's all he's wearing right now.
Sorry I don't speak moron as well as you, but let me try.
What the hell is supposed to do, you moron?
It's a moron. That's not against the law.
Gun, you fucking moron.
Dressed up like Batman.
Because he is Batman, you moron.
What are you, a fucking moron?
You moron. Drop dead. Moron.
Whoa!
Up here, you morons.
Stepping morons like yourself.
Me down, you moron. Hey, moron.
Bid you farewell and good luck, morons. Bye.